Welcome back. The summer and winter male initiation season is a cultural rite of passage marking the transition from boyhood to manhood. The practice involves circumcision and teachings on how men are supposed to care for their families and communities, and also how to keep an upstanding behavior at all times. To help us understand this age-old cultural rite is CONTRALESA General Secretary Zolani Mkiva. His Royal Highness, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, we know that this rite of passage has been a practice that's been kept amongst the Xhosa and other ethnic groups for centuries on end. And how important is it for us to keep passing down this ritual for generations to come?
No, thank you very much for having us. And indeed, this is an ancient African sacred ritual of the rites of passage from boyhood to manhood. It's a traditional initiation which remains quite relevant, even though that it has existed from time immemorial. It's very important because this is the foundation of our society, and it plays a key role in the education. This is one of the earliest scientific discourse to come out of Africa, because it's a school. It's a tertiary institution. It's a university of norms, values, and traditions. It prepares future leaders, and therefore its relevance and its importance it's beyond reproach, if I may put it that way. It's something that has to continue to happen. The only thing that we have to do is to ensure that we build internal capacity to ensure that the process of complete decolonization of some of these ancient practices is actually mainstreamed and foregrounded. And secondly, as you know, CONTRALESA has been saying that it's important that we institutionalize the rites of passage. And we're saying that so that we can ensure that there's much needed professionalism in terms of what must happen, but also there has to be a great amount of resources that are put aside to give the necessary impetus in terms of support to this ancient schooling tradition. Because if it's done just as a by the way, then it could be prone to all sorts of problems, which we have seen in the recent past, including some people taking chances, wanting to use it for making money. This ritual is actually more than just symbolic. Its essence is so essential because every young man in the African society is expected to go through this, and we have to do this in the purest way that we can. But of course, we can draw lessons from elsewhere in the world in order to strengthen that. So I'm saying that to us, and we're not saying because you may suggest that we are conservative traditionalists. No, we are Africans, and we believe that one of the things that we ought to do in a post-colonial Africa is to mainstream our indigenous knowledge systems. And this is one of the greatest platforms that has existed, and even the colonial governments failed to actually destroy this institution in terms of what it has done. It produces men, it produces future leaders, and it gives an opportunity for us to actually express ourselves in an authentic way, to fight against patriarchy, because it is not patriarchal. Many people may not be aware and conscious in the country that the rites of passage from boyhood to manhood, initiation exercise, is not something that is exclusively meant for men. There's also rites of passage from girlhood to womanhood, which is a school as well. And there are certain lessons which are actually taught there. There's guidance that is given to the children. There is consciousness which is imparted upon them in order to sort of embrace the African values, the norms, and our own understanding of the design of our living from an African point of view. Children are taught African formulas on how to relate to issues that are related to African cosmology, and so on and so forth. So it is a school that its relevance will be there even in year 4000.
Most certainly. I mean, it also comes with its own set of challenges. Last year, this time, during the start of the summer initiation season, we had already lost 20 young lives. What measures are being put in place this year in order to avoid such?
Well, from year to year, thank you for raising that. And indeed, it is quite very painful that we have to lose children in the process of the rites of passage. This is something that should be avoided at all costs. And we're doing everything we can from the point of view of the Congress of Traditional Leaders, together with other stakeholders that are key in the sector. So there's been a great amount of improvement, which includes the training of traditional surgeons, but also the training of traditional nurses and caregivers. But we have also now come up with monitoring, which is very extensive, where we've got inspectors that go on the ground to check what is happening in all initiation schools. So those measures are being put in place, and we are working closely with the House of Traditional Leaders. We're working closely with the Department of Police, Department of Health, as well as the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. So we have put all hands in the deck, and we have said that this is about our children. This is about the future of our society. And therefore, it's very important that we work together in unison to ensure that we deliver initiation seasons that are flawless, that are without any fatalities, that are without any deaths. And I can tell you that this time around, there is a great improvement in terms of the numbers have dwindled drastically. And we know the hotspots where there's been this great amount of deaths, which are caused mainly by bogus doctors, by bogus initiation schools, as I have indicated. But we have now tried our best to alleviate that. But I'm not saying that we are at a point where we are comfortable, because there are few deaths which have already occurred even this season, especially in the Eastern Cape. And the Eastern Cape is a problem area, especially the eastern part of it. And we have given much needed focus to that area. And I was talking today to Nkosi Lutuga, who was telling me that they are winning the war, they are winning the battle, because they have been able to push back on all of those thugs that act like human traffickers in terms of their conduct. So I'm saying we are turning the corner, and we are quite pleased with the support that is given by government, but we can improve, and we want an improvement. And I think institutionalization will be the best solution for us, because it will not be an issue that is based on knee-jerk reactions, but rather we'll have proper plans from year to year. And when we talk about institutionalization, we mean we need to formalize this ritual, and it must be part and parcel of the country strategy, because it's known that is going to happen, and it involves hundreds of thousands of children on annual basis that go through this exercise. It's more like a spiritual pilgrimage for our young people in this country, and therefore planning around it and actually doing everything to support it would actually work in a very big way, and there could be even spin-offs, including economic spin-offs for that matter. But most importantly, this mainstream the importance of the African culture in a country where we have just achieved our democracy 29 years ago. So it's important. It's part of ensuring that decolonization and the re-education of our society means that we must have an appreciation and self-love and love of the finer things. That means a lot to our communities, culturally speaking.
Of course, of course. His Royal Highness, before I let you go, I mean, you are speaking of all these different arms coming together in supporting the initiation schools in South Africa and in ensuring that the practice is protected in the best way possible. When we speak of these bogus schools and these bogus doctors, are we seeing enough prosecutions in order for us to be starting to see a progress in terms of people taking accountability of what they're doing to these young men?
Well, the level of criminality and crime in our society has reached grotesque proportions. And the issue of arrests, maybe we need to start there. Are there arrests that are related to these bogus initiation schools? Yes, there are, but they are very few and far apart. And yet, there was a time when these bogus initiation schools were thriving. So I think more needs to be done to ensure that there are arrests, but at the same time that there are convictions, because some people do get caught up in doing wrong things around this practice, which has costed us lives as African families. So I'm saying that there is a lot that needs to be done. And we have been calling, for instance, as CONTRALESA, that let's give some special powers now to the traditional authorities, particularly traditional councils, so that they are in the forefront of ensuring that the administration, step by step, from registration of all the boys that will go through this particular year, it must start there. The families must also designate a responsible person who is going to be there for the whole month or two, looking after the children. So it's not something that we must allow that parents should sort of outsource their children in something so delicate, in something so sensitive, and in something so sacred to third parties. This requires the parents to be involved, or a guardian who is authorized by the family. So we think that let's give some of the powers and functions fully to the institution of traditional leadership, so that as the custodian, it is seized and it can take responsibility. And secondly, the institutions of state, like the departments that I've mentioned, health, police, and culture, must then give support to the institution of traditional leadership. So we will never rest on our laurels as CONTRALESA. We are in the front line in ensuring that we want to push back any wrongdoing around this. But we need the state and the state enforcement agencies to assist us to enforce the law, but also to ensure that those that are doing wrong things are arrested, and the courts sit to actually ensure that they are convicted and are given sentences which are going to teach a lesson once and for all. Because the repetition which you see happening is because there are still loopholes in the system, and the fact that there hasn't been enough arrest and conviction, it makes people to think that they can get away with murder. My goodness, we need to stop this and stop it now. And we are working in ensuring that that actually gets stopped.
We most certainly need a stop to all of this. Thank you for your time this evening and for your inputs. That was General Secretary of the Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa, His Royal Highness Zolani Mkiva, speaking to us there.